Yeah.
So the more intimate you are with each other outside of physical intimacy, you're probably your frequency of sex is probably going to be greater. If all you think about intimacy is the physical, you're missing it. This article talked about one of the greatest forms of intimacy is understanding. Hey everyone, welcome to Between Sundays podcast. We're so glad that you're joining us today. And I'm your host, if you don't know, Dale Satrum, and I am here with my two great co-hosts, Katie Jones.
What up?
Jeremy Laura.
Let's go. We're ready.
We are ready. Hey, we try to follow Jesus between the podcasts, and that includes everything in this life. And if you watched Thursday's podcast, you know that we started off with talking about a movie, or really a book that was turned into a movie, and about really juicy, highly graphic romance novels. Compared that to porn. We ended up having this great conversation about sex, and this is kind of a continuation of that. And so this is kind of part two.
Right.
Part two of this topic.
The scratching of the surface.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All we're doing.
Sure.
Yep. So the topic of sex is huge, and sex in marriage, sex in the church. How do we have conversations about, following Jesus and our sexuality? And some people, and let's just face it, the church hasn't done a very good job with that. And so we're gonna wade into that conversation today. So and we're gonna use one of your questions as kind of a jumping on point.
Yep.
All right.
Great question. And we love hearing from you guys. You BS squad, you guys are the reason we do what we do. So seriously, and I know we have said Q&A, but if you even have an experience where you're like, I'm going to share this in case someone else out there had the same experience, and let's talk about it. That is really valuable to us too. We don't take it lightly at all. Everything's anonymous. So bspodcast@foothillsonline.com, or you can drop us a DM, whatever way you prefer. But we love to hear from you guys, and it helps us grow. It helps us know what you guys like, or maybe you disagreed with us on something. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because chances are, if you did, someone else did too. We're not perfect here, but we want to represent God well, and we want to be able to have a safe place for these conversations. So without further ado,
Here we go.
Yeah.
Jeremy, read the question for us.
All right. So this is a comment / experience / question. So let's start it. You asked if you should do an episode about marital sex. I personally would love that. Not because I necessarily need it, but 15 years ago, me would have. The church doesn't actually talk about sex, which leads us to learn about it from the world. And what does the world say? The world told me not what to expect, but that I had better satisfy my husband, spoken as if this were all men, or he'd surely find satisfaction elsewhere, and I'd have no one to blame but myself. This way of thinking plants doubt, suspicion, and takes our self-worth. We were told by the world what sex and appeal and satisfaction were supposed to look like, and it led to two young broken people feeling lost and not enough in our own marriage and relationship. Thank God we grew together, grew ourselves, and grew in relationship with the Lord. For now, this is no longer a story. 15 years later, we are blessed with love, passion, serving our partners in all aspects, where there is no doubt or hesitation, fogging intimacy and connection. But I can't help but think what our early marriage could have been like if there were voices other than the world speaking on the subject.
Great question.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you, and a
That's
great
so
testimony. Really,
Yeah.
that's a great testimony where you were able to grow through the struggle and misinformation, wrong expectations. I mean, hey, good for you guys. I mean, well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have you guys on the podcast.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, just a testament to what bringing the Lord into your marriage does for people.
Yeah.
When done the right way,
Yeah.
Purity culture type Lord, but one of the Bible.
Yeah. Let's stick with the book. We'll try to do that today. Yeah.
Hey, well, a follow-up kind of comment / question to this experience is, did we overcorrect from sexual immorality into sexual avoidance? She mentioned this powerful line, if you don't satisfy him, he'll go elsewhere. Where did that narrative come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if we I don't know where the narrative has come from. I've heard it in both places. I've heard it in the world. I've heard it in the church. Okay, so there's pieces of truth in all of these phrases. They're just so incomplete. Okay, so what am I saying by that? I want to expand it, because if you don't meet each other's needs in a marriage, you create vulnerability in your marriage. And so your marriage has multiple needs. I mean, so with each other, you have mental needs, cognitive needs that, you don't have to intellectually be at the same place, but you got to have intelligent conversations. Okay. And then there's emotional needs, there's spiritual needs, and there's physical needs. And the reality of human beings is simply this: if you don't learn to meet those needs in the marriage relationship, we all create substitutes for them.
Right.
That doesn't mean you're going to have an affair. It simply means you're going to create a substitute for the vacuum that exists. Human beings don't do vacuums. We just don't. So you have a hole in your life, you're going to fill it with something. Yeah. So I think that's what that statement, I look at that statement and go, okay, there's the truth of that statement. If you don't satisfy your husband, it's overly simplistic. You made it all about sex. I guarantee you that if your sexual needs aren't met in a marriage, the substitute could be he stays at work all the time, or she stays at work all the time. Come on, it's both ways. Or you read romance novels, or it could be porn, or it could be a hobby where you're always gone. I mean, I've counseled some guys where they're obsessed with their hobbies. They're never home. Well, what do you want to be home for? Well, then you find out home's not a great place. That's not an excuse, but there's reasons why people act the way they do. And sometimes we overreact with these end behaviors instead of unpacking why they went there. Well, you're making an excuse. I'm not making an excuse for their behavior. I'm trying to understand the reason for their behavior. If you don't ever understand the reason for the behavior, you can never change it. So just quit beating somebody up over porn, beating somebody up over an affair, beating somebody up over your obsession with romance novels. Find out why. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's just, and the church just beats people up over behavior.
Right.
So then it gets back to the whole sex thing.
Yep. And absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point of this is if we don't talk about it, the world is, and they already have, and they have already kind of dominated this space.
Right.
It's so crazy because sometimes I'm like, it gets messy for me because there's so far pendulum. The world has done both. So there is definitely so many relationships where the men just expect this is just what they are supposed to do for me. And it's very self-centered. But then there's women who are very selfish about it too. Well, if he doesn't do this for me, then I'm not going to have sex with him. And they use it against the man. But like both sides, there's just disconnect, and there's some like hurt that hasn't been addressed, or some like you grew up being raised in that culture, so that's what you think is okay, and you're not willing to deconstruct that. There's so much. This is such a big topic, and there's no cookie cutter situation. They're all so different. It just depends on where you come from. But if you have a desire to bring God into this space and to have a really healthy, fulfilling sex life, then you can do it for sure. But it does come with breaking down some of the barriers and really being honest with yourself about what those have been for you.
Right, because it could come from church, it could come from the world, it could come from, I mean, come on, we don't have time to talk about this, but abuse in people's past. I mean, it's just some horrible trauma you went through. I mean, come on. So you're right. It's an ocean of a topic, and there's no way that we can represent everyone's issue, everyone's pain, everyone's hurdle. There's just no way.
Yeah.
We're going to try to not talk in too much generalities, because I think sometimes we do a disservice if we make things too general. Yeah. So we're going to try to walk that balance.
Right. And we pulled in some stats because I think people outside the church probably think, oh, like Christians are so prude and they only care about like if you didn't have sex before marriage. So there are some stats that are promising, I think, out there about what it looks like for a legit Christian couple and kind of their satisfaction levels. So we did pull in some stats.
Yeah, let's read them.
Do it.
Okay, first stat is married couples report having sex only one time a week. similar to national average. Should I just read all of them? Should I go for it? Okay. Second
That's
stat,
sad.
slightly.
Sorry, that's Christian married couples. Sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't
Christian
put that
married
in there.
couples.
Yes. Yep.
Second stat, slightly higher among married adults who attend church weekly. Couples who pray together report higher sexual satisfaction in slightly higher frequency. Highly religious married women report some of the highest levels of sexual satisfaction compared to a less religious woman. People who believe sex is a gift from God tend to rate their sex life as more meaningful and fulfilling. Couples in purity culture, higher sexual anxiety, difficulty from sex is bad to sex is holy.
There's a lot of stats there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the first one that surprised me was the once a week. So which is pretty much the same as most married couples. So that we didn't differentiate a lot. But I was really surprised about the couples that pray together report higher sexual satisfaction and slightly higher frequency. So I wonder if that's because they've kind of tapped into the spiritual aspect of it.
Here, want to take on that?
Yeah, of course.
Because it's
Go for it.
intimacy. Intimacy begets intimacy. And so if you're spiritually intimate, so if you pray together, that's a spiritually intimate thing. Intimacy begets intimacy. And so that's why you feel connected to another person. And so you're praying together. So again, spiritual intimacy, emotional intimacy leads to physical intimacy. It's all connected, folks.
Mm-hmm.
And so no, that's not a surprising fact at all, the statistic. I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
So the more intimate you are with each other outside of physical intimacy, you're probably going your frequency of sex is probably going to be greater. If all you think about intimacy is the physical, you're missing it, and you're probably limiting your sexual frequency. So again, a lot of things. Sex often is sometimes we look at sex too much as an event isolated from marriage when it's really more of a barometer. If other things are healthy, sex kind of just happens. If it's not healthy, it can tend to not happen, feel forced, feel selfish. So anyway.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I think the thing with prayer, and I think it's good that you bring it up, is sometimes sex is treated as transactional.
Yeah.
But then when you treat prayer, prayer is not transactional, it's the intimate moment where you're kind of praying for each other in that moment. And so then if that's displayed in prayer, then it won't be transactional when it comes to sex.
Right.
Is when I kind of think about something like that. So
That's a great point.
something that me and Emily do is every night we pray together. But for the past couple of weeks, when I leave the door because she works remote, we'll pray for each other, right? Like next to the door and everything. And that just creates an intimacy where it's like, man, I can't wait till I get home and like see my wife again. And so I think, and hopefully the same way, other way around. But it's just that intimacy, like you said, plays out into so many ways of like, okay, how we're going to communicate during the day.
Right.
My expectation of like, hey, I'm excited to come home, or like he's excited to come home. And stuff like that. So it definitely plays a big part into our lives. Absolutely.
I think it helps with understanding because you're praying for each other. And I think in the last episode, I talked about how, again, this article talked about one of the greatest forms of intimacy is understanding, when you feel understood. So I think prayer does a lot of that. You feel understood. It's not just this religious experience. When you're praying, you're probably asking your wife how you can pray for her. Well, now all of a sudden you have an opportunity to listen, and she's sharing what's on her heart or what she's stressed about. See, those were deep levels of communication.
Yeah.
Now you're understanding at a heart level, and then you're praying into a heart level. So intimacy. Yeah. And it just leads to more, So no, it's a great statistic, and it's not surprising to me.
The other statistic is a highly religious married woman reports some of the highest levels of sexual satisfaction compared to less religious women.
I'd like to know how they would define highly religious. I'm not like a fan of that category because I don't know what it means. Because when I hear highly religious, I kind of cringe. I mean, I kind of do. So I'm sure they define it some way. We don't have the details for that, but I would link that back to the prayer one. Those two would go together to me. So
ties with the last one about people who believe sex is a gift from God tend to rate their sex life as more meaningful and fulfilling. I would imagine those kind of are paired together a little bit.
Yeah. People who, if you believe that sex is a gift from God, then you better treat it like a gift.
All right.
If you don't treat it like a gift, doesn't matter if you believe it's a gift or not. You better treat it that way. She better feel it is treated that way.
Yep.
So,
and again, I never know how detailed to get, but so sorry if this is makes anybody cringe, but I will say, and this is has been a game changer. I invested in the app where it's like a partner app, and he can track my cycle too. Apparently, he loves
Flow.
Yes, yeah. Oh, Jeremy knows. Jared he'll get the notification. He'll be like, "Says you're supposed to be extra in the mood today."
Yeah.
But,
that's hilarious.
But I mean, and it shouldn't be an excuse for women. Like, I'm not the woman that's like, "Oh, you just get to be cranky because of whatever." But it's really insightful for men, and I think it could be really helpful. So maybe talk to your wife about it because it can help you out with some stuff for sure.
Since there's going to be questions, people are going to want to. What is that app again, Katie?
What was it, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Flow. FLO. No W. Flow. It's a pink app.
Oh, there
Download
you go.
It. There you go.
He
You're welcome,
knows.
husbands.
Oh, I wish I could see how many people are going to go download the app right now.
Instantly right now.
We should get a cut of that, actually.
No kidding. We're going to do a commercial for it. Oh, my God.
Our first ad. Let's go.
I didn't have stuff like that, those years ago. I had to just figure it out. Okay.
Yeah. It's a great tool for you guys.
Oh, my gosh.
Right.
That's great.
Well, should we ask some questions to consider as believers?
Let's do it.
Well, our first question is, why is it that so many Christian couples feel unprepared for marital intimacy? Big question.
Well, yeah, because the church doesn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I even think I don't know how much what they do in premarital counseling. I mean, I used to do a lot of premarital counseling. I don't do any of it anymore, but sometimes I think there's an assumption that the people that you're doing marriage counseling with, they're already sexually active, and most people already are sometimes, and so it seems like a moot point. But I think that maybe we shouldn't make that assumption because you still don't know where people have received their sexual information. You don't know if they're getting it from the world. I mean, very few people are going to get it from the Word of God. They might be shocked to see what God actually says and teaches about sex.
Where's the best place for them to go for what you just talked about? Song of Solomon?
In the Bible?
Yep.
Oh, the best place to go. Well, I do like the Song of Solomon, but I think you're going to have somebody maybe walk you through it a little bit because it's a lot of imagery, and it does a great job talking about just a physical love, and people would be, again, surprised, I think, at some of the even graphic descriptions that are in the Song of Solomon that really are talking about physical intimacy and physical pleasure and using metaphors to talk about body parts. I mean, it's like, really, so some of you are like, I'm going to go read this book. Yes, you should. Okay. So that's a great place. I think you also need to, we're going to bring up this passage and I'm going to read it. You also need to look at some passages such as 1 Corinthians 7. Now, sometimes that's been used against women. Unfortunately, we're going to read it today and read the whole thing and put it in the right context, because there is some understanding about that we need to have. So those would be my first two, I would say. But again, the Bible doesn't shy away about sex. It treats sex rather matter-of-factly. It's not a taboo topic. It's all through the Bible. It's normal. It's common. It's part of life. It's part of humanity. It's part of our DNA. It's God, certainly has some parameters around it, but you just see it dealt with very, very matter-of-factly. It's too bad the church doesn't deal with it like that. It should. And I think we do a disservice to people because we don't, which is what we're trying to do here on the podcast. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Second question. Why do we talk about purity before marriage but go silent after? guess that kind of ties in with what you just spoke. So
I think so. I think the church is obsessed sometimes over abstinence. And somebody's like, oh, I can't believe you said that. It's not the unpardonable sin, folks. I'm not trying to diminish sex. I'm not trying to cheapen it. I'm not trying to, all these things. But I think we've created sometimes, people can come across thinking that it is almost like the unpardonable sin. Oh my gosh, you had sex before marriage. How horrible. Really? And again, I'm just trying to put it in context. The Bible talks a lot about sex. And a lot of examples in the Bible where they didn't do it right.
Right.
From multiple wives to
Yes.
divorce to immorality to hey, it's all in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got to have to talk about sex not just in this in the context of sin. See, that's the problem too. We talk about sex always it seems like always in the context of sinful behavior. And so there's this natural association with sex and sin. So it's no wonder kids grow up in church thinking that sex is bad or there's something wrong with me because I have sexual desires. Well, I hope so. God created those. Hallelujah. All right. Mm-hmm. And so sex isn't something to be celebrated. It's something to be avoided. And it's unfortunate. Okay? Because that's not how it's presented in the Bible.
Right.
So
well, and you used a good analogy before we recorded about guns and like teaching your kids. It's kind of one of those things where as soon as you make it such a like, nope, we have to keep this to ourselves, and we'll give you these tiny little snippets of details, and then you're supposed to literally figure the rest out all by yourself. And then like the cycle just keeps repeating itself. So then that couple keeps it to themselves, whatever problems they're having, and it just keeps kind of manifesting versus you said this, you talk about showing them how the gun works and teaching them about it and showing them the safety things about it.
Remove the mystery.
What could happen if you are not using it properly,
right.
Who you could hurt. Sex is kind of the same.
Treat sex like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Don't treat sex like it's something hidden away in a drawer or something that's in a closet that is, oh my gosh, we don't talk about it. Or stop doing a disservice to our kids and the next generation, because I guarantee you they are going to find sexual information. It is everywhere. They're going to find it. Yeah. We might as well get out in front. We might as well talk about it. We might as well give them God's perspective. I mean, isn't our job as parents and churches to equip people? We should equip people to follow Jesus. That includes sex. That includes sexuality. That's all part of the equipping. We're sexual beings, aren't we? And even as a parent, I'm trying to raise kids who can be healthy, functional adults following Jesus in this life. Isn't sex part of it? Mm-hmm. So it's like, why are we so afraid of talking about sex? And the irony of that is sex is everywhere. It's everywhere. And we're afraid to talk about it. It just kind of blows me away. Mm-hmm. It's weird. It's just weird.
Yeah. It's intimate. So I understand, and people that are more private, like, yep, absolutely. It can be a hard one, but it is important.
I know. I was a youth pastor. That's where for years. I had to get over it. I talked about sex all the time. I remember the first time I talked about it, it was awkward and weird. Felt like, should I even be doing this? But I got over it, obviously.
Yeah. Obviously.
Jeremy, it's like, obviously.
Right here.
Yeah. But isn't it refreshing? Listen, those of you that are listening, isn't it refreshing at least listening to people who follow Jesus, even a pastor at a church who's not afraid to talk about it, versus maybe going to some church where it's taboo? That's why I want your questions. Write them in.
Yeah.
Because we don't have those hang-ups here. We want to celebrate what God's created, and sex is part of it. Let's elevate it where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
being able to ask a question that feels embarrassing only because you have preconceived notions of like you being shamed, but that this is not the place for that. Like,
right, and maybe you have been. Yep. Maybe somebody shamed you for asking a question growing up or in church, or we can't talk about that. Not here. Yeah. All right.
Well, next question: why does culture make women responsible for male faithfulness?
I think it's completely unfair. I don't know why culture does or why churches do or whatnot. Where does it come from? It all comes from our brokenness because we've left God's way of doing things. So the enemy creates alternate versions of God's truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's like the Ephesians passage that talks about women submitting to their husbands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, how come in the same breath we're not saying husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church? It's all in the same context. And we pull out something to beat women up with it. Right. I can't. That's just wrong.
You know, I heard the phrase mutual submission, and that always stuck to me as like, there's a different format in the Bible, obviously speech wise, but you're kind of submitting in a sense to each other daily.
Jeremy, exactly, which is exactly what the Word of God says.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So now I want to read this. This is 1 Corinthians 7.
Yeah.
Now, you need to understand that the book of 1 Corinthians is a series of answers that the church is writing to the Apostle Paul, and they're asking the Apostle Paul, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And this letter that we now have, these are his responses. And so in 1 Corinthians 7, these people had some sex questions. All right? See?
Shocker.
It's been around for a long time. Now, regarding the question you asked in your letter, all right? See? Yes, it is good to abstain from sexual relations, but, he says, because there is so much sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, each woman should have her own husband. I want to put this in a really quick context for you. This is Corinth. In Corinth, there was a huge temple, and back in the first century, a lot of the Roman temples would have prostitutes that was part of the worship. So you would actually worship that god, pay money, have sex with a prostitute, and you did your worship.
Crazy.
Right? Pretty cool, right? I'm a moneymaker. So in Corinth, they had a temple with 1,000 prostitutes.
Wow.
1,000. And they would go down to the local pools in the city. They would actually wear sandals, okay, with advertisement on their soles. And so as they walked away wet, they would hit the pavement and people could actually follow them, okay? That's Corinth. This is in Paul's mind when he says, because there's so much immorality, all right? So it's been around for a long time. This kind of stuff's been around for a long time. So they were tempted, we're tempted, okay? And so now Paul connects marriage as a protection for this. The husband should fulfill his wife's sexual needs. Yes, you should, men. And you must know what they are. How do you know what they are? You should ask. Because they may look a little different than yours. See, here's this mutual submission part that Jeremy was talking about. And the wife should fulfill her husband's needs. So this isn't demanding. This isn't degrading. This is not what it is, but it's this mutual submission. Because there are needs that both people have. We should love each other enough to figure this out, lead into it, learn it, all right? Meet those needs, because if you don't, remember we said earlier, you don't meet the needs, you create a vacuum. If there's a vacuum, as human beings, we will fill it with something. Love doesn't leave vacuums in your marriage, okay? Love goes, I'm going to meet that need. The wife gives authority over her body to her husband, and the husband gives authority over his body to his wife. Mutual submission again. There it is. This might be a new concept to you guys, but this is biblical marriage. It looks like this. Takes humility, takes grace, takes communication, all right? Selfish people can't do this. Do not deprive each other of sexual relations unless you both agree to refrain from sexual intimacy for a limited time. And Paul gets really spiritual here. So you can give yourselves more completely to prayer. So if you're going to pray, fast, whatever, hey, we'll have a little season here. We're going to abstain from sex so we can focus on Jesus a little bit more. Okay, all right? But he says, look, afterward, you can't make this permanent. It's just a short period of time. You should come together again so that Satan won't be able to tempt you because of your lack of self-control. He knows that we're human beings. He knows that we have physical needs. He knows that we crave intimacy. He also knows that we have a spiritual enemy who will tempt us in this arena if there is a vacuum. I'm going to go back to that. The enemy knows there's a hole in your marriage. I guarantee you, he will present you with the substitute.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean an affair, but it will mean something that is not God's best for you. So, this is a great passage.
That's great.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
so good.
Really
So you
is.
got a quick little Bible study there, okay,
Yep.
on sexual needs in a marriage and how important it is, and how we lead into this as husbands and wives. And so, and again, I think sometimes the church has read verses like these, and then they emphasize to the women, you need to give your husband sex no matter how you feel and no matter what's going on in your life. That's not what the book says, all right? And again, I'm going to keep going back to the phrase that Jeremy said, mutual submission. So, and part of that begins by understanding, communication, understanding needs. How do I meet those needs? Guys, it's not just about you getting sex. It's about you understanding your wife and understanding what her needs are, how to meet those sexual needs, and the journey to meet those sexual needs will be different than yours. It is not that your wife doesn't like sex, want sex. This whole thing, men want sex and women don't. That is stupid. It is not true. Okay? Don't believe that lie. It is not true. But there's some differences. And when you understand the differences, and when you mutually love and respect and submit to each other, the sex typically isn't the problem. So,
Yeah. Great response. Well, I feel like there's a couple questions underneath that were kind of answered a little bit
Yeah,
for that. So
definitely.
maybe we can hop to the question is, how do couples rewire their thinking?
that's a great question. Rewire thinking from, what are we saying, the world?
Either
That-
it
that-
could be the world, it could be like what culture you were raised in.
Purity culture?
Yeah.
Wow. What do you think, Katie?
Yeah, well, you know,
Thanks, yeah.
I've told you guys I'm in a season of really kind of trying to figure out, okay, what is God's word versus what is my own voice or voices that I've internalized, you know, just trying to decipher that and get in the Bible more, obviously. But yeah, I think that it all comes back to love, right? If you really love your spouse, you have to be willing to work on things, whether that's communicating, whether that's finally sharing what you do or don't like, and allowing them to share the same thing, and working on it actively, being vulnerable. I think, and I know that's really broad, but rewiring your thinking, I think you have to constantly do that in this life if you want to follow Jesus more closely.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, rewiring your thinking. The Bible talks about renewing our minds. I think, you know, we over spiritualize that. Sometimes we need to renew our minds by how we think about sex. Because sex is good. Sex is in the Bible. Sex is part of your marriage. Sex is it creates a good dynamic. I mean, it creates health. I mean, there's a lot of good things for it. So sometimes we have to renew our minds, and you know, part of that is getting back to the Word of God, believing what the Word of God has to say about it. It's rejecting old tapes, old lies. You know, and again, the neuroscience behind we think you thought a certain way about sex for so long, it's a rut. It's a mental rut. And so you probably have triggers. Now all of a sudden your husband says something, your wife says something, does something, it triggers the old way that you think about sex. And so unless you create a new pathway, unless you create new verbiage in your head, you have to lay down a new track. And that's not easy. I mean, it's not. So, you know, if there's trauma, if there's abuse, so much of this stuff is difficult to overcome.
right.
So but it talks about rewiring your brain.
Yeah.
It has to be intentional.
And if you need help to do that, there is never shame in going and getting therapy for that, you know, like
And that's
that-
what therapy does.
Yes,
Helps with
sometimes
that.
you need help outside of yourself. So
You do-
sometimes rewiring your
Sometimes?
thinking, we're not saying you can just
I always
do
need
it all
help
the-
outside of myself.
Right, well, yes,
My-
yeah, absolutely.
That's my
but-
problem is me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But specifically talking about
Yeah.
trauma, you get the help you need, and there's no shame in that whatsoever. But I do think there's a little rewiring that happens. This is sex again, one topic out of marriage, but we have to really give up some selfish tendencies. I don't know if it was this episode or last, but Jeremy kind of talked about you're being tired, but like, I will say I do a lot of things wrong, but I can count on one hand the amount of times like I've turned down my husband. It's probably because I'm sick, but because of that, I think he also pays attention to my body language too. So like if I'm sick or tired, obviously those are very clear. Like let me just help you. I'm not going to push the sex
right.
thing. But I do think as women, sometimes we can, just like with anything, we can get a little lazy in this, and we can kind of justify like what you said earlier, like, oh, I'm tired, or like I've been working with the kids all day. But it's almost like you talk about, I'm pretty sure it was you, like we're almost like banks. The more positive, you build your partner up, and this is kind of part of it.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah. All I was gonna add to it is just maybe before the rewire of the thinking, like the people that you surround yourself with
pay
such an impact into it. I remember like a week before I was getting married, my married buddy Tito was like, "Hey, bro, do you need like any tips and tricks?" It's just like stuff like that, Just,
Tito sounds like he.
Oh, he's a great dude. But stuff like that, where it's like, if I have people like that, like trying to encourage and affirm, and like, hey, this is like some things to know about this, and not make it so hidden. I think rewiring that thinking is going to be a lot easier. If I only had friends surrounding me that are like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Then it's like I don't know who to go to at that point, And so I think that plays a big part as well. So and you have to be careful with that. Sometimes some people are like, so. But I think it is important to have people that talk about that are married, and for sure.
Really.
So.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And being a safe person too, like it's, if someone does talk to you about it, then you want to make sure that you are being encouraging and not just
Yeah. Amen to that. Don't discourage somebody when it comes to sex.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, hey, I've had plenty of conversations with married people about that, and it's just like, man, glad I didn't talk to you when I was first married. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, come on, give some people some hope.
Yeah, I agree.
No, because some people are jaded, Well, enjoy it now, Jeremy, because, man, when you're married X amount of years, that's all going to go away. I mean, I've heard stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, we
I want to talk about that, actually, because I've heard that so
Yep,
let's talk about it.
Too. Yeah.
And that could be a whole long conversation. But I've heard this phase called the honeymoon phase. And I remember, I'll never forget, about a year ago, I had heard about a couple. They're like, oh, yeah, we're like in this age and we're still in the phase. We got kids. And in my head, I was like, man, the norm is that you fall out of that. And so ever since I got into marriage, I was like, how can I... It's not like a phase, it should be like in a lifelong moment that you have with your spouse. But like, how can I not be in that like statistic and be like the person who's like, man, this is the love and care that I have for my wife, for a long time. And right now it's a little easier because I don't have kids. But once I have kids, like I really still want to have that same mindset of like, how can I stay in this place where, there's healthy sex, there's a desire for each other, there's conversation, there's communication, there's intimacy that will most likely change in a different sense, but the root of that is still there. And so I'm trying to figure that out, and I'll be trying to figure that out for many years to come. And so
I love the intentionality behind that too, because you guys made up your minds now, like, no, we don't want to be the statistic. That's like kind of the first thing.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
So well done.
Yeah. We beat the statistic of like, oh, people like fight when they plan a wedding. We didn't fight at all.
I love that.
We just talked.
Yeah.
We just talked.
No, it's amazing to me how much, when I talk to people too, how much conflict they have before they're married. And I'm like, wow, well, if you're having massive conflict before you're married,
worries me.
Do you think it's going to get better after you're married? It doesn't. It'll get more intense because now you're actually complicating the amount of issues you're going to be dealing with.
Mm.
You're not married yet. It's a piece of cake. And you're struggling. So that doesn't mean you're going to have a bad marriage. It just means that you really both lack a lot of skill sets on how relationships work. And there's probably a lot of selfishness that's still there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I'm just going to say, call it out. I mean, that it kind of boils down to that. I mean, Lisa and I don't know, we were married for a couple of years before we had our first child. And I don't know what I call it, a honeymoon stage. It just was easy. Marriage was easy for us. We dated for 3.5, almost 4 years. We knew each other really well. It was a natural progression of our relationship, and it was, you know, those couple of years were tons of fun, man. I mean, we were just, you know, I was in ministry, school. We were just having a great time, doing life, figuring it out, and you know, having a child was one of the greatest life adjustments I've ever had. It rocked my world, and
Do that.
I mean, you what?
I said it'll do that.
Well, it did,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to. I mean, and so, you know, that was like the first major readjustment of how the relationship's going to work. And I don't think a lot of couples navigate that very well. It is tough because it changes communication. All these norms they don't go away, but they're altered. You know, your time, your energy, you know, sex, you know, it was, you know, could be so much more spontaneous. Now there's this child, this little thing that demands all this attention, and it's taken away from me.
Yep.
My wife's attention is distracted now. It used to all be about me.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's all these dynamics. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, but I tell you, you can navigate it and still keep it sweet, keep it fun,
Absolutely.
keep it spontaneous. Yeah, it can be done.
Yeah, that's such a good, because I'm thinking too, because I know so many people where, and it's so sad because it's almost like marriage is their cross to bear. You know, like some people just have harder marriages, and that's just part of life, that maybe other things are easier for them. But I will say, I think the big reasons why that has not been the case for like me and Jared, not yet. We've only been married 10 years, but I really, truly feel like we thoroughly enjoy each other. Like we are always laughing at the same things. Like we have the same sense of humor. And I know that sounds like a small thing, but like I think that friendship, constantly having like that friendship, and that's your person, that helps a lot too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think sometimes people stop believing the best in each other, especially with kids. Like, he purposely didn't stick to the routine that I have for the kids. Like wives can be that way. I have had those moments, but over time I've learned to be less like, oh no, like just because he didn't do something exactly the way I would have, that doesn't mean he did it intentionally. He's just not a mind reader like in the novels, you know, like really setting your expectations. Not like, I'm not saying lower the bar by any means. I'm not saying that, but sometimes you have weird expectations for your spouse. So it's like believing the best in them and loving them where they're at, but also like, yeah, of course we all have areas we need to grow in, but I think sometimes people really focus on what their spouse needs to grow in instead of focusing on what they can grow in.
Yeah.
And he's done a great job about that.
Yeah.
So
you said something important about being friends. I think it's that dynamic is kind of between the church and the Lord, of like, we see him as our creator, as our Lord, but we also see him as a friend. There's different personas that he has when we approach him, in the same way that, like, as a husband, I'm also her best friend. Like, I'm there for her. And so there's different hats that a husband wears and a wife wears. That's not just like one thing, but sometimes you need to be in different places. And that's, you know, the Lord has shown that to us too. So yeah, I think that's important.
Good word.
so good.
Well, we can, should we do another question? How are we feeling? We can do one more if we want.
Maybe one more?
One more?
I know we're getting up close on time here.
That's
but-
all right. We'll keep on going, people. Let's
I'm
go.
good.
I think this is a important question. What would change if churches discipled couples in intimacy?
Love that question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the word discipled couples in intimacy, that means the church is really going to have to get much more intentional and probably much more specific. I mean, so is the church ready for stuff like that? Are we going to have classes on intimacy? Are we going to have classes on, hey, okay, here's the principles from God's word. Now, how do you apply that in your conversations?
Mm-hmm.
How do you apply that in your sexual creativity? Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't even know they get to be creative. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to, is the church going to be able to have conversations like that? People, I think people desperately want to know, Christians, what they want to know, what's appropriate. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that requires some high-level specifics that
Yeah.
I'm not so sure the church is ready to lean into, because I think people are like, okay, I'm hearing all these general principles, but is this okay? Is this okay? Right?
You're touching on what I struggle with
Yeah.
because I feel like there's certain things that you are raised being like, oh nope, that's just a
line. Go there.
No fly zone.
Mm-hmm.
So you naturally kind of go and like and look for it and look for
Hmm.
more resources
Uh-huh.
on it. So you're touching on something for sure. But just like with anything, if we don't, it's not that you need to get detailed nitty gritty, but like if you don't do some basic principle teaching on these things, we are looking elsewhere. And the world is more than
Mhm.
happy to accommodate.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going to be looking elsewhere, or you don't give yourself the freedom, maybe, to have conversations in your marriage or explore and allow your sexuality to grow or evolve. And you're thinking, well, how can you say something like that? Oh, for crying out loud! Sex is like any other skill set. Can I just say that? Okay, it's
Yep.
unique, but it's
Heck yeah.
it is unique, but
Yeah.
but it is still a skill set. It is something you learn. It is something you grow. It is something where life changes, and then you have to evolve, and you have to. For crying out loud! So think about how we train anybody else. We want to grow in any other skill set. How do you do that without specifics?
It's very true though. I mean, I'm gonna bridge it over weirdly to like music side of things. Like in my ability, I can be successful into it, but if I want to grow, like I can't just keep on looking at myself. I have to look at other musicians from churches or other musicians outside of the church sometimes even too, and understand of like, okay, so that technique I didn't know until I listened to it. Now let me implement it. The same way possibly for that. Like there's
I like where you're going, buddy.
Yeah.
you're only limited to what you know.
Yeah.
You know,
How do you
so-
develop a skill set without the specifics? Without you use the word technique. That was really funny. It made me laugh. but you're right. You're right. Because people
that
want
style?
they want to know, is this wrong? Come on, I did marriage counseling. Is this position wrong? Is it? People have asked me those questions.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going, well, why would it be wrong? Well, well, they do that in porn. Well, they do a lot of stuff in porn. Why are we letting them set the standard, for crying out loud, just because it happens there? So see, it's all this confusion.
And that's a whole different thing too. Is that porn and books like that destroy it to where it's like actually that used to be good. You know?
Right. And so
But
they've
then-
hijacked it.
Yeah.
So they've hijacked sex.
Yeah.
And then now everybody's uncomfortable. They automatically assume, well, that can't be acceptable because they make these wrong associations instead of just backing the card up, looking at sex from a biblical perspective, looking at the freedom that God gives married couples. Okay, you're married. Yes, I know. There's all this. Don't have sex before you're married. But so what's crazy about it is that once you're married, it's like all this, the restrictions like come off of it. And so it's a little bit of a shock to your system. Lisa and I waited to have sex, okay? And, we did it for a long time. So it was like only by a miracle that we made it. So I'm just saying. But it was weird because it was like, no. Yes, enjoy it all. I was like, oh my gosh. It was like,
Well, you guys both are touching on a great thing that I think can be applied to literally anything in Christianity. There's a perception that once you are trying to follow Jesus, everything is, this serious, take the fun out of a lot of things.
Right.
You think about drinking, you think about there are Christians that really pick battles and make it very clear, like music back in the day. Oh, you can't have that kind of music in church. Right. But now look, like there's artists like Forrest Frank and Holvey. I mean, there's these artists that sound so good and their lyrics are so good and beautiful, but they sound like they're up to date on what's going on, but they're still wholesome. Like sex is the same thing. Yeah. It's like you can have this wholesome relationship with your partner with sex, and it's not bad because it's within the boundaries that God set, not because he wants to suck the fun out of things, but because he wants to give us the very best. Then I think that's like hard when someone is on the outside kind of, or if they've had this church, if their church is really uptight, if they're around uptight Christians, it can be really hard to get your brain over that hurdle.
It is. It is.
With a lot of things.
But God's going to ask us to be monogamous for the rest of our lives, okay? And we can get all stuff. Oh, of course he is. Yeah, okay. So he's going to make this restriction monogamous for the rest of your life. He's not going to put a lot more restrictions on it. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Here's the best way to enjoy your marriage relationship and sex. You're going to be monogamous for the rest of your life. The world says that's impossible. God says, no, it's the best way. But then he says, but I'm not going to put a lot of restrictions on that. Okay? Go have fun. Go enjoy this thing that I've created. And I think that the church is uncomfortable with that. But no, we're going to put really narrow guardrails on it, or at least maybe it's assumed. It's not really that way in the book. It kind of basically says, hey, go enjoy sex. Go fulfill each other's sexual needs. Go have intimacy. Go enjoy this amazing thing that I created. And it can be fun. It can be spontaneous. It can be creative. And but keep it between the two of you. But the guardrails are pretty wide. Go have fun.
Yeah.
So
agree. Well, that was some good discussions. That was some great discussions, guys.
All right.
A drop in a bucket.
Yes.
Right? Just a drop.
Seriously. But
so
if it sparked, again, I can't say it enough, please join the conversation because your voice matters in this discussions. Your experience matters. And we would love to hear from you. So bspodcast@foothillsonline.com. Make sure if you are, you know what I noticed? I'm going to call you guys out. We noticed a lot of you are watching but not subscribed.
Come on, subscribers. Let's go.
Let's go.
Caught in
Hit
4K.
the subscribe button. It helps us grow.
Yeah.
And we so appreciate you guys, all of you that have been around, our OG listeners. Thank you for hanging out with us. We appreciate you so much.
Yeah. Yes, we do. Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time then.
Next week.
See ya.
Whoop, whoop.